One of the things about me, I'm always more interested in root causes, fundamental issues, rather than the symptoms that we often deal with. So in all of my work, what I tend to do is back off from what problems are you seeing to start asking better questions about what's actually causing those problems and spend time on the root cause issues. One of the issues that comes up often as a symptom is siloed thinking, siloed approaches, really fractured and disjointed organizational culture. And you can spend a ton of time talking to individual people, but often it comes back to one thing in particular, which is a difference between having KPIs or KPAs and having success criteria as an organization. So KPIs almost everyone has. Let's talk about what is success criteria, why does it matter? At some point in your life, you'll hear the expression, what gets measured gets managed. And it's a useful conversation to have around that. But really what it's talking about is whatever you're looking for in terms of outcomes, one, that's what you're going to see. But two, you're not going to see other stuff. Now, to be clear, there's no organization or person that can see everything all the time. It's just not possible. That just makes it even more important that you're really clear about what are we going to look for, because we're going to miss other stuff. So what is so important that we're willing to miss other stuff to focus on that? In many organizations, they lose sight of purpose and values. Again, why does the organization exist and what's most important to it? And because they lose sight of that, what becomes fixated upon are outcomes at a very, very small level. And we codify those as KPIs or KPAs, those measurables which are not unimportant, but don't speak to anything bigger than simply what each person in that organization is doing day to day. And while it's good to know that, the danger is if that's all you know, you get a very, very small snapshot of what's happening in an organization, and you actually lose sight of how does all of that fit together. So while KPIs or KPAs or whatever you call them, those smaller measurables in your organization, while those are important, what you need to start with are success criteria. Success criteria are measurables, the things you're looking for that go beyond the individual measurables. In other words, those individual KPIs and KPAs should clearly feed back into those success criteria. So the success criteria are big, you break them down into smaller bits, which might be your KPIs or KPAs. If you do that, then each of those KPIs, each of those outcomes, each of those measurables that you have actually make sense into a wider, bigger picture. If you don't have those success criteria, you just have a ton of points, but no lines to connect them. So you need to come up with success criteria. What's the big picture things we're looking for from which you can build your KPIs and KPAs? Assuming I've convinced you that these success criteria are important, that you need them to frame each of these individual KPIs or KPAs. Go back and look at the video I did on Organizational Design 101. I'll put a link down in the description of this video. Look at purpose and values. That's what's going to lead to your success criteria. Why does this organization exist? What is most important to us? That's going to help you figure out what are the success criteria for this particular organization. Again, not for every organization in your industry or in your country, but for your specific organization. What are the big picture things we're really looking to accomplish as an organization? And those will be your success criteria. What does that look like? Let's say, for example, you're in an innovative finance company. What your purpose is to allow a wider section of the population to have access to financial opportunities. That's your purpose statement. It's not a great one, but let's assume that's your purpose statement. From that, what you would say is, okay, what do we look for to see if we're being successful in that? What that might look like is, how many customers did we sign up? How many loans do they have? What are the value of those loans? What loans did they have previously? Why are they getting these loans? Again, all of that speaks to this much bigger idea of we're trying to expand access. How you look at that and those exact details of what you look at will likely change over time, but each of them should speak to this bigger success criteria of, are we actually expanding access? And that is part of our purpose. So again, without a purpose statement and without a value statement, it's really hard to define success criteria, so you wind up with a bunch of different individual KPIs, KPAs. When you have a clear purpose statement and a value statement, you can then build a success criteria which are broader overarching things, and then from that you can funnel down into more specific KPIs and KPAs. Now, if you're like many organizations, you've got a ton of data running around. You've got yearly reviews or quarterly reviews. You've got all these different spreadsheets with tons of different data. Your problem is rarely we don't have enough information. Often the problem is we have a ton of information and we can't actually make sense of it. So, success criteria helps you to, one, know what to look for, and then two, it helps you to organize that because it's fitting into something bigger. We've collected this data to answer this much bigger question. How does that help us do that? What information do we have? What information are we missing? It allows you to continually reflect on, are we getting the right information at the right time from the right people? I work with people all the time who say, we've got tons of data, so we know what we're doing. And I often have to come back and say, no, you've got tons of data, but it isn't aimed in a particular way. It isn't organized in a particular way, and it doesn't all speak to each other in a certain way. It's just a bunch of numbers often. So use success criteria. Look at your purpose statement, and if you don't have one, you need to get one. Look at that, figure out what's most important to us based on that purpose statement, and then you can filter that down into smaller and smaller chunks. But you have to start with that success criteria. What is fundamentally most important to us, and so what should we be looking for? Without that, you're left with an organization where you've got lots of people running around doing lots of different things, having lots of meetings, collecting lots of information, but it's not all tying together into a cohesive whole, and it's actually not helping drive your organization forward. So the quick takeaways from today, you need to have a purpose statement, why do we exist, and a value statement, what is most important to us. From that, you might build a vision statement, which you can see a previous video on, but you'll need to be very clear about what is most important to us as an organization. From that, you can define your success criteria. From that, you then figure out on each lower level as you work down through the organization, what are the KPIs or KPAs that we're going to be looking for? What information will help us speak to that success criteria? If you do that, you build a much more coherent, cohesive organization. If you don't, you wind up with a lot of people wind up with, which is an organization where 1 million different people are doing 1 million different things, and you're sort of just getting by day to day. I hope that's useful to you. As always, if you have questions, comments, feedback, please get in touch with us with the contact information at the end of this video or in the comments below. Happy to engage.
Cause no